Hello and welcome to the Men of War Assault Squad 2 Gem Editor. It's been a while since we have started, or at least tried, to make a map in Men of War. Now, that's for a couple reasons. One, the last map we were working on, the Okinawa kind of mountain range, that ended up being over the prop limit, essentially, for the game to handle. As it is relatively old, it's not really super optimized in my opinion, but because of that, I can't even load the map up anymore. I would have loved to finish that map. I was such a huge fan of something so drastically different compared to what normal people might see in the game. A lot of hills, a lot of, heavy fortifications, really probably slugfest of a match that was going to be that map. But due to that, error coming up, and it just kind of killed my drive to try and make a map for a little while. So I do apologize for leaving Men of War kind of empty on the channel, but in talking with the Rat Pack and trying to get some good ideas going of what might actually work for Men of War, I've decided to go ahead and attempt to make some War Thunder themed maps. So this is going to be the Poland map. It is the map, if you play ground forces at all on War Thunder, it has a lake in the middle, a town to the north, some farmland also, and to the south, some nice rolling hills, and some good views of the lake. It'll also feature a partially destroyed castle, and the town itself is fairly large. So for Men of War, towns are very interesting. I think it's going to be playing out rather uniquely to some Men of War maps, but as this is inspired by War Thunder, it's not quite a perfect copy. I will admit that. I have to take some liberty with this in placing objects and designing and laying out, just so one, it saves me time. I can't do a one-to-one copy of this map. It's just not going to work out like that. But currently, I'm working on the first little church that is on the kind of the outskirts of the town. And normally in War Thunder, this town is actually already pre-destroyed, pre-bombed, and the siege is pretty much underway. I'm actually making a pristine version for a couple reasons. One, I kind of don't want to go through and go in War Thunder and find every crater and try and recreate that 100%. I don't think that's a feasible thing to do. And then also, I think people that play Men of War, well, they get to go through all the stages. So I think it's actually superior to War Thunder in that sense that the town is pristine until you destroy it. And it's going to be destroyed different every time. And in doing so, you might get some completely different matches in how they play out and how they get destroyed and how people advance. And I think for gameplay and replayability, that's important. So we're just going to be doing kind of the initial outskirts area today. I spent many hours roughing in the roads and starting work on some of the dirt path layouts using some stamps and just trying to get at least a general feel of the scale of things. There are some things a little bit off, but again, there's not much I can do. I don't have 100% of the assets of War Thunder, and also, translating maps from just screenshots. There's just going to be some variety, and I'm going to take a little bit of liberty to try and rectify that as we go. So this initial here, this is just farmland. It has some barns. It has that church there. We're using stamps to try and blend these dirt roads and give these asphalt areas some cracks. And this is kind of how I do War Thunder. I did, at least in the editor. The basic premise is I use some loose kind of terrain sculpting and terrain kind of painting with textures, as the textures in the gem editor aren't necessarily great to try and do. And then I go back in with stamps to try and fill in those weird areas. Now, there will be some elements that I will be trying to take from War Thunder and sticking them into this map. I.e., there is a roadblock here set up, some barbed wire, and some already laid out sandbags. It's basically like a checkpoint into the town. Now, I think this would be here before the battle, essentially because maybe the Germans own this for this time, and you're attacking it, and there might be some pre-laid out defenses that you might have to overcome or use for yourself. And I think that's gonna give some interesting gameplay as you go about laying out the battle here. Now, because the scales aren't 100% accurate, some of the city blocks are a little bit more narrow than they should be, a little bit wider sometimes than they should be, and I had to try and fit houses in here that are roughly to the size that War Thunder has. So we're gonna be using some small buildings and looking for things that at least fit in terms of size. Now, I do have a little bit of a map to work from here. It's an old map, so it's not the current version of Poland. I will be taking screenshots to add the newer areas, like some of the little outskirt towns and buildings. But currently, for the bulk of it, I'll be using basically a user-generated map that someone made, and that'll give me the rough layout of the roads. That'll give me the rough layout of where the buildings are. Not necessarily what the buildings are, but I don't think that's quite as important as at least just making it look relatively accurate. And as I do a slow pan at the end of the speed build and show you guys kind of how the map is at least arranged, and as we move through and develop and progress giving details, things might change, things might evolve. So there you can see a little zoomed out version, the lake in the middle there, the small island on the left side, that's where the destroyed castle was going to be. Trying to replace some of these sidewalks because I haphazardly put down the roads and sidewalks first everywhere, and then I drove around on the map and realized this town has no sidewalks except for like the 4 main roads. So we're gonna have to slowly replace those with dirt paths and kind of this dirt trim that's gonna go around the roads. But that's okay because I went ahead and took the effort to lay out the roads ahead of time, and so it's not that big of a deal. It's just kind of a retexturing that you have to go through and figure out. This right side here, this right side kind of goes into more of a dirt road area, and it kind of hugs the right farmland and fields that we'll be kind of hinting at later on. I might have to increase the size of the map as well as we go through and still kind of evolve over time. I'm getting the tree placement roughly where they should be. It's all about just trying to get kind of the greenery to work in a believable fashion. As I always say on a lot of my videos, it's about believability, not so much realism. And also, I can't find telephone poles at all. If you guys know where that is in the editor, if you use the editor yourself, let me know, because I couldn't find it. I actually searched here for a few minutes, going through almost every item, as I need to put telephone poles in this place, and I can't find any to use. I've seen them before, I know they exist, I just need to locate them in the poor search menu. That doesn't really quite work how I would like. So again, replacing some of these sidewalks, trying to bend these asphalt borders around to get the curved roads. Some of these elements will be a little bit easier and harder depending on the stretch of concrete we have to work with, but I'm not too worried about that per se. Getting some of these walls laid out will be an interesting challenge in the long run as well. At this point, we're going to try and just place some light shrubberies. This town has kind of a low shrubbery wall surrounding parts of it, and it looks pretty cool, especially around the lake area. And some even smaller dirt roads that are kind of more utility based, and for only farming equipment or for getting to these sheds and storage areas. So you get a lot of road types in this map, which I really like. It's definitely a little bit different than the last map that we made, the kind of village front area. And here in a second, you'll see how bad I am at texturing in this game still. It is not necessarily my favorite thing to do. Trying to change the grass up here to a lighter green, as that's kind of what you see in War Thunder. You see lighter green elements up in this northern field area. And in doing so, it basically comes down to the pattern repeats too frequently. You can see definitely the tile size in here, and going back in to try and soften areas and pull areas out can definitely be challenging, especially when you have to repaint areas to try and reblend them and get them to work, and it's just a little bit of a nuisance. Planet Coaster definitely, in my opinion, does this a lot easier. But then again, that's also a new game, so I hope eventually they kind of change the gem editor and how it works. I'm even trying to use stamps and textures to fix it, but in reality, I decided to just go back in and make it a darker green, as that just blends a little bit nicer with the default green that we were using everywhere else. I might have to go back in and lighten that up at a later time, but for now, I think just dividing up large blocks of color is an okay way to progress into a different system. This lower field will be a slightly lighter color green, and obviously trying to find stamps to fix that left edge there. You can see how jagged it is from those texture fighting each other. Couldn't really find anything that I liked, so I went ahead and just filled it in with the grass that we've already laid down. And then at that point, what I'll end up doing is trying to get these little lines of farming equipment. So these are fields. Obviously they're grown over. It might be off season, or they might be, just not sowing any seeds here this time. And you need little farming tracks, little pathways these small farming equipment might follow, and it's going to be a different color than the heavier dirt tracks, as that might get more traffic than these ones, as it might not be quite as heavy machinery going up and down those vertical paths there. So as we go through, keep adding little buildings, keep adding little trees, happy little trees into our town. It's just a constant little battle of adding a little bit of detail at a time, realizing that we need some sand and dirt going around the actual lake, because obviously that is an important thing to do. I will be also going in and making sure the textures are reading correctly, so if like a tank is going over dirt, it'll be dusty. If it's going through water, it'll cause some splashes. You can do that in the gem editor, and I might explain that once we get to that point. But currently, we're just trying to get some texture blending into the lake itself, as it is a little bit of a problem area. You can see as we add more textures, we just have to keep going and redoing some areas and making some areas be darker, as it is actually lower in that lake zone. So this is pretty much winding down the speed build area, and as we move through the town and keep adding details, hopefully we'll keep under the prop limit. You never know with me, as I tend to over detail stuff. So let's go ahead and kick it to real time me. I'll go and look at stuff real time, and then maybe hop into War Thunder so you can see kind of the area in that game. Alright, so I want to start with a pullback view so you guys can kind of see the scale and looks of the map. You can Google image War Thunder, or if you play War Thunder yourself, you can kind of see what we're going for. I might have to extend the southern end of the lake, as laying out the roads and things, I had to encroach a little bit, and so as we move southward, things might have to be adjusted as we go. But you can see the main roads going throughout the town. That's marking out where all the buildings are going to go. You can see just the little bit of area up here that we did work on, and I have laid out some areas for other elements. Let's zoom in here. We got this front area, which is what I'll probably show you in War Thunder. This front road here, as you go into town, I think it looks fairly accurate. You got the nice kind of town layout there. In fact, what I'm gonna do is even let us add some of the actual in-game lighting here, just so it looks a little bit nicer. And you can see just these little sheds here at the edge of town, how the dirt road's kind of overlapping the asphalt. Now, I might have to try and dirty the asphalt up a little bit, but again, this is bombing. I don't want to try and cover it up too much. This little checkpoint, we'll actually drive through this checkpoint in War Thunder. So you guys can kind of see this area in that game and kind of compare the two. Here is the church area with some two little statues there. Not the exact statues that I was looking for, but it suffices. I mean, you know, it works for the game. We got layouts for the buildings, and I've been trying to find buildings that fit together inside our small little city blocks here. And in fact, if I go ahead and drop down a tank, let's do a medium tank just for size here. Yeah, Jack Panther will work just fine. So you can see you can definitely get 2 tanks down here. It's a little tight, but it's doable, you know. And bringing tanks into the city, I think, will be an interesting challenge for the players themselves. Definitely artillery is going to have to happen for a while, which is what I think War Thunder portrays first. Now, we got the farmland over here. In fact, these tractors here and here are in War Thunder as well. And that is pretty much all I was able to accomplish in this episode by itself. It took a little while, but I am a little rusty with the editor, and that'll take a little bit longer to get back into my groove of map editing. So let's go ahead and jump into War Thunder, and I'll just drive down this road here, and you guys can compare it to kind of what you're seeing right here. So here we are where we left off on the real-time look at the map, and this is the same road that is coming into town. Obviously this has a lot more detail going for it than the map currently does. I just have to go through and kind of take some more screenshots. I had actually no idea there was a well here and some jugs and a bench and all this fine wonderful detail, almost like a bus stop here even. So as we move in, this is the cobblestone wall surrounding the church. Didn't know there was a tractor there either. This is the dirt road going off to the north, and here is one of the corner buildings, and then up ahead, if I can control my tank well enough, we will meet the little checkpoint that I have built as well. Here are the 2 statues in front of the church right by the checkpoint, and we'll just kind of burst through here, pop, and work our way by in front of the church. And you can see back there is that little tractor in the map. And in fact, if we move forward, here is that little fence area that we currently have, and you can see the other little tractor that we pointed out in the editor, and the little well. So things are progressing. Obviously our map isn't going to be this destroyed unless people are actually playing on it, but so far so good. If you guys enjoyed today's episode, feel free to subscribe. Go ahead and hit that like button. Leave a comment down below on what you guys think. Go ahead and check out my other videos if you haven't done so already, as I try my best to shoot this AI, and I'm probably not going to do it. Well, that's a shame. Okay, so that's enough shooting. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time in some more Men of War / War Thunder.